Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I'm going to share with you how I made this card and really it's going to be focusing on this technique here. I've no idea what to call it, but basically I've used an embossing folder and we've got some trees peeking out from behind, and I know others have done videos which you can go look at, but this is, if you like, my take on it. So I'm starting with the stamp set Lovely as a Tree, and I'm going to be using this long stamp here, and I'm going to start with a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'll put the measurements on my blog, and the link to that will be just below this video so you'll be able to follow along. And I'm going to be using the Woodland embossing folder. Now, an embossing folder does just that. It puts an impression onto the paper, and so when you open it up, you have a side that the pattern is upward, and then on the other side you have the if you like, the negative. This is where the pattern is actually going in. And this is the side that we're going to be using. And so I don't forget, I've got a little piece of sticky here which says stamp this side. So hopefully I'm not going to mess up on that one. So I'm going to be using Mossy Meadow ink, and I'm going to ink up my stamp, make sure I've got plenty of ink on that. And then I want to stamp here, and I want to try and get this bigger tree here on this sort of center point, this central point here. And so I'm just going to place my inked stamp down and press firmly. Now you want to make sure it doesn't slide because it is a little bit slick. If it does, simply wipe the ink off of your embossing folder and start again. I'll just press that firmly, and then I'm going to move everything out the way, and then I'm going to just turn this round, and I'm going to put my piece of cardstock on the uninked side, and I'm going to place it like this to start with, and then I'm going to move this, fold this over, but I'm keeping my fingers between the two pieces so that it doesn't hit on the card just yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move it around inside the embossing folder so that I've got my card and my inky bits just in the right place, and that it's as reasonably level. And then I'm just going to close this down like that, and I'm going to bring in my Big Shot. So for this I am using the platform and one cutting sheet. I set my cutting sheets, I reserve them for embossing and for cutting. Let's try and move that up a little bit like that. Now I know that for this Big Shot and this process I need to put a little bit of extra cardstock, a little shim in there. Every Big Shot is different. It has slightly different pressure that it puts, and I know this one needs that. So I'm very carefully putting my embossing folder and then a second cutting sheet, and then I'm going to crank it on through, and it does make it a little bit stiff for this, but it does give you a lovely impression. Okay, I'll pull all of this away, set aside my Big Shot and all the bits and pieces, and so now I can open this up, and there we have that impression. And most of the ink's off, but there is a little bit of ink there, so you can use a simple chamois to clean that off, or you can just run it under the tap. So that's that bit. And so really that's just the technique. So the rest of it is merely decorating up. So on mine, I've made it look a bit like a frost. So I'm using my fine tip glue pen and just dotting some of this various places, just so that it kind of looks a little bit sort of a wintry scene, I guess. I'm going to be using this as a birthday card. I think that's what I decided to use it for. But you can use it for a thank you. You could use it as a Christmas card. So as I say, I just dotted some adhesive around. Put the cap back on. This has a pin to stop it drying in the tube, so I'm just going to make sure the pin goes down, and then I'm going to get my dazzling diamond glitter out and just wave some over the top like that. Tap it well to get rid of the loose stuff. Nothing worse than pulling a card out of an envelope only to find that all the glitter fires in all directions. And then, because I'm mounting it on a piece of Merry Merlot, I decided that I would sponge the very edges of this card. And I've just got a stamping sponge here, and I'm using the Merry Merlot ink. And just adding just a little bit of colour just to soften the edges. There we go. And then I'm going to use some snail today to attach it, and you want to put your snail on, if you like, the flattened parts just to hold it down. Not putting a huge amount, but an elegant sufficiency, and just line up so I get my little border like that. Right, and I'm also using some braided twine. So for this one, I want my braided twine at the top. So I'm just going to flip it over and put a little bit of snail, and I'm going to then position it so it's nice and level like that. And it's caught down. Well, she says, hopefully it's caught down by the snail on the back, but you can see that this is popping off. It needs a bit more strength to hold that in place. So I am going to use a couple of little strips of adhesive tape. It's just tape that you know, you would use for wrapping presents or something like that, and that will hold that in place. Then we're going to go in with dimensionals. So I'm going to use little ones, and I'm going to use tweezers because otherwise they catch up underneath my nails. And these are just some tweezers I bought from the craft store. Any of you that follow my friend Ellie of Elementary Paper Crafts, you'll see that she uses tweezers all the time, and she says it gives her far more control, which I would agree. So I'm just got a piece of Mossy Meadow 11 by 4 1/4, and I'm just going to put my fold in and place my card here. Now, Lovely as a Tree as a stamp set doesn't have any greetings, so what I chose to do was get Eastern Beauty, and there's 3 lovely little greetings that would work for this particular design. I've got hello, which could be used for any occasion. Thank you is self-explanatory. Enjoy today, well, that could work for a birthday. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do, and I've already prepared it. So I stamped it again in Mossy Meadow, and I sponged the edges with Merry Merlot. I cut it out with the 1 1/8 scallop punch, and then I layered it onto a 1 1 1/4 circle of Merry Merlot, and then a couple of dimensionals on the back. And I've put them top and bottom so that it can just sort of go over the piece of twine. I have another piece of braided twine here, which I'm just going to slip under the piece I've already stuck down and just tie a little knot like that, and just trim off the extra bits. It's a weeny bit on the long side for what I want. So there we go. Then I have a 1/4 sheet of Whisper White, which I've already stamped with the same stamp. Now this is going to be my inside piece that I'm going to do my writing on, because it's going to be a bit of a challenge if you're trying to write onto this Mossy Meadow, unless you've got a white pen or maybe a silver or a gold one, but I much prefer to put a liner in like that. And then I've got my Whisper White envelope, which I've also stamped. And there we are. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this card and this technique. As I say, there's a link underneath this video which will take you to my website, where there'll be all the dimensions, as well as a link to my online store, so you can go and order your supplies. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.